Hey everyone, welcome back to Ackernews. I hope everyone out there who's listening had a good week as always, and I hope you're ready to just sit back, relax, and talk about some gaming news for a little while. Sorry if I sound a little weird this week. I literally just woke up right before I started recording this, so not the most ideal situation, but we're gonna power through and talk about some gaming news. First things first, we're gonna be doing our classic rapid fire news segment. I've got, once again, 5 topics for our Rapid Fire News this week, and let's just get right into that. Here comes Rapid Fire News. So, first off, I want to talk about a commercial that Nintendo just put out about a day ago as of recording this video. And, it's a little bit weird. The commercial in question is one of Nintendo's holiday commercials. It's called Nintendo Switch My Way Holiday Fun. And in this commercial, there's like a bunch of different games that kids are playing, and like a character from that game comes to life in like the real world, and then interacts with them in some way. But the main thing here that I found really creepy was the first part of this, where they're playing Mario Party Superstars, and like Mario is like spying on them. Like he's I guess he's kind of short. He looks almost like a goblin or like a gremlin or something. He's like spying on these kids, and they look over and see him, and then the kid's like, "Oh, it's Mario! It's so cool!" But like for me, like if it was me in this situation, I would find that like super creepy. So I don't really know what these kids are thinking here. I don't know what Nintendo is wanting you to sort of react, in what way they want you to react to this commercial, but it just seems really weird to me, really creepy. Next up on our list are the sales numbers that have come out for Metroid Dread over the span of its October release. I know it came out sometime during October, but we have the October numbers for that game, and based on what it says here on GameSpot.com, Metroid Dread has sold 854,000 units, at least across October, and that makes it the highest selling Metroid game in that same time frame ever. So that's obviously some pretty good news if you're a Metroid fan, because to Nintendo that says that people are excited for Metroid, they enjoy playing these Metroid games, so maybe we should keep pumping them out. It also seems like Metroid Dread has gotten some pretty good review scores over the last month or so. It has an 88 on Metacritic from critic scores and an 8.7 from user scores, which is, that's a pretty good balance there. So I think, all else equal, we could be seeing some more Metroid games down the line, possibly sooner rather than later, who knows? Because as the way it's going right now, it seems like people are really into this whole Metroid thing, right? Next, let's talk about a new piece of hardware that Nintendo put out this week. I guess it's a piece of hardware, technically, but it's the Legend of Zelda Game & Watch system that just came out, I believe, yesterday, as of, 2 days ago, I guess, when you guys are watching this. But I got my hands on the little system, and it seems really cool to me so far. I've played around with it just a little bit. One thing that was really cool to me, I actually tweeted about this, was the language selection feature. I didn't even know that it had that on there, and when I started up the games, it was like, oh, pick your language. I was like, what? As someone who would personally like to play these games in their original Japanese, that was a really unexpected and cool feature. And I was kind of expecting just the English language like the Mario games had on the Mario Game & Watch, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that was a really cool thing to add. Now, if you are interested in getting your hands on one of these Legend of Zelda Game & Watch systems, according to the Nintendo website, they are still in stock at a couple of different retailers. Best Buy and Target, I believe, still have them, but I just checked, and Walmart, Amazon, and GameStop are out of stock. At least that's what it's showing to me at the current time, so there probably will be another wave of systems at some point, but not for the foreseeable future, probably. So if you are interested, I would recommend doing that sooner rather than later, because they are going to be out of stock relatively quickly and then being scalped on eBay. So, probably that's the inevitable situation there. But yeah, I'd say if you are interested, definitely hurry up in that respect. Now let's switch gears from Zelda to Pokemon with these new Pokemon-themed donuts that are coming out of Japan. At least that's what I saw on the official Pokemon Japanese Twitter. At the Japanese donut chain known as Mr. Donut. If you don't know Mr. Donut, it's a popular Japanese donut chain equivalent to like Dunkin' Donuts over in the US or Krispy Kreme donuts, kind of the same thing there, but just, the Japanese version of that. And at this chain, they have, I believe, a total of 5 different Pokemon donuts. There's one that looks like Pikachu's face, there's one that looks like Eevee's face, there's a sandwich donut with a Pikachu theme, a sandwich donut with an Eevee theme, and then a sandwich donut with a blue theme. This blue one can be either Piplup, Pachirisu, or Glaceon, so you've got some options there. Personally, the one out of these 5 donuts that I'm most interested in is the Pikachu sandwich donut. I know, personally, I've never had an actual donut where you cut it in half and then fill the entire thing with cream. That just seems really appetizing to me personally. It's got whipped cream and custard in there, so I feel like there's no way that's going to taste bad, and I never really had an opportunity to try a sandwich donut. It's just not really something that I've ever seen at Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme, at least personally, but it sounds really cool, so I would like to try that if I ever had the opportunity. Alright, and now for our last piece of rapid fire news, we're going to talk about Miyamoto's statement on the state of the Mario franchise, kind of how he wants to approach 3D Mario games going forward and 2D Mario games and the differences therein. So in the most recent Nintendo financial results briefing Q&A, Miyamoto was asked about the differences that he sees between 2D and 3D Mario games, and his response to this was, "As for the difference between 2D Mario and 3D Mario, let me explain by describing the background for the development of the Wii game New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which was released in 2009. At the time, it felt like each time we created a new installment in the Super Mario series, which by then had expanded into 3D, it became more complicated. After the release of Super Mario Galaxy in 2007, the goal was to develop a more accessible 3D Super Mario game, and the result was New Super Mario Bros. Wii, a basic side-scrolling Super Mario game that even new players could easily play. That later led to the release of the even simpler Super Mario Run game, a mobile application released in 2016. When we develop software, we strive to incorporate new elements, but at the same time, we want to make it easy for even first-time players to have fun. Recently, people of all generations have been enjoying the 3D Mario game Super Mario Odyssey, released in 2017, so for 3D Mario, going forward, we want to try expanding further in new ways." Okay, so personally, I think this is kind of good news and then okay news at the same time. The 3D Mario stuff about, wanting to expand further into different areas and, new ways, I think that's pretty good news. I would love to see Nintendo do more things with, the Mario Odyssey formula and see what they can do there. I think that would be very nice and cool. But I think the statements about 2D Mario being the more casual side is kind of I don't know about that. I feel like 3D Mario, like Mario Odyssey, there's ways you can approach the game, ways you can build it so that anyone can have fun in the game, and they kind of did this with Mario Odyssey a little bit, the way they had you not have to get every single moon in every level, you could just get the moons that you were either capable of getting or the ones that you wanted to get. So, if you weren't someone who was going for 100% and you were just a more casual player, you could just do the ones that you wanted to do, and that sort of separates out different people into different categories, right? So for me, I want to try to get all the moons that I possibly can get, but maybe for someone else they just want to get the ones that are easy to get and the ones that you find fun. So I think that was already kind of done in 3D Mario, and you don't really have to make 2D Mario specifically super basic. You could try to make a really challenging 2D Mario game sort of akin to Donkey Kong Country's level of difficulty. I think that would be really cool if they actually tried to do something in that vein, a really unique and really challenging platformer 2D style Mario game. I think that would be super cool, but based on these statements, it doesn't really seem like we're going to be getting something like that anytime soon. Going to be more sort of towards the basic end of things. I'm not sure. I guess things could always change there, but just based on this, not looking too great. I am excited for the new ways they can expand the 3D Mario formula going forward, though, obviously. Okay, now we're into our big news section of Ackernews. Now, there wasn't really too much in the way of huge groundbreaking stuff from the gaming community this week, but there were a couple of things here and there that did send some waves throughout the community, and I'd like to talk about those here today. First off, as you may have guessed, is the GTA Definitive Edition Trilogy, that whole fiasco that's been going on with that game. I probably won't be showing any footage. I might just show some screenshots because last time I put some GTA footage in here, I got copyright claimed by Take-Two. Even though I don't make money off my videos, I still just, I don't like getting copyright claimed. I don't think anybody does. But yeah, I'll probably just show you some screenshots. It's really the most important thing. The game has been, not so great. Let's put it that way. So when I talked about this last, I think it was like couple of weeks ago, I said that the trailer looked pretty nice, and I think that, the trailer still does look nice, but they obviously didn't show any major gameplay from the game up until, after the game released, because it's in this state where, like, there's just so many different, like, visual bugs and, like, unfinished aspects to the game. Specifically, I'm looking at, like, a collage of a bunch of different like glitches in character models right now. There's like the famous one is like the guy riding the bike with like 16 different joints in his arms, and there's a guy with he's holding a gun and he's trying to point it like at a car or something, and he's just holding it towards himself as opposed to like straight out. He's just like holding it really weirdly back towards himself. There's a guy with like like Lego person hands. There's a guy with a jersey on that has a number 9 on it, but then you can see like a number 7 watermark in the background. There's a guy with like, he's shaped like a triangle, like just like a human triangle. It's just not great. Also, the rain effects in the game, specifically, people have been complaining about, like, it just looks so bad. Like, the rain is white as opposed to like clear, so when it's raining, you just can't see anything because there's just like the whole screen is like just basically white rain. It looks really weird. Now, obviously, the graphics have been up-resed, and the game does look, much better than the original games, but that comes at the cost of all these different visual glitches and bugs and all these different things. So obviously, it's definitely not the greatest situation. They even delisted a lot of the older Grand Theft Auto games from a bunch of stores because this new game was coming out. But I can see now that probably was done because they didn't want people to just say, oh, I'm just going to buy the older games anyway because this new game is garbage, right? But the PC version of the Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, Definitive Edition, whatever the official title for the game is, has also been delisted from the PC store, I think the Rockstar store where you can actually get the game. It's been delisted from there, and the Rockstar store has just been having some trouble in general, I believe. It's just a whole mess, is the best way that I can put it. Also, the Switch version of the game has been experiencing some very, very low frame rates. It appears that, in some situations, it's really struggling to even reach like 20 FPS, which is, I mean, it's the Switch, but still, the game is, it's a trilogy of very, very old games from like the PS2, right? So there really shouldn't be that much trouble getting the game up to like a solid at least 30 FPS, right? As of right now, a lot of the different versions of the game, like the different consoles that it's available on Metacritic, have very, very low user scores. It's usually like a 1.0 or below. I've seen a lot of 0.6s, which is obviously if you're Rockstar or Take-Two, that's just not a great situation to be in. And these low scores are most likely due to the many visual glitches, the high price point for the quality of the game, the many bugs, the underhanded way that this game is marketed. The original trailer specifically, like I said before, was only showing specifically the good parts of the game that, actually looked quite good in comparison to how the game actually launched. And as you might have noticed, I haven't said anything about critic scores for this game, and that's because there really aren't that many out there. The many different versions of the game on Metacritic, at least most of them have a to be determined in the critic score section, and that's because a lot of critics haven't really had a chance to play the game yet, like most people, because they didn't get review copies of the game early, and, whenever that happens, it's not really the greatest sign. Usually when gaming companies withhold review copies, it means that there's something about the game that they don't want you to know about prior to release, so that you pre-order the game or buy it on release day without seeing reviews, because, if you saw that, you wouldn't want to buy the game. And that's probably the case here with all these different visual glitches, bugs, and, all these myriad of different problems with the game. And that's definitely an underhanded way to do things. It seems like, the accepted way of releasing a game is to give reviewers the opportunity to review the game before it comes out so people know if they want to buy it or not, because there's really no way to gauge that without actually playing the game or seeing somebody talk about it before you actually buy it. So, just a mess all around for the Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, whatever it's called. And a lot of fans are either refunding their games or they're just very disappointed with the release of the game, rightfully so. And it seems like the developers have said something about wanting to fix the games or, make the games what they were meant to be, but it's Take-Two, so, I'm not really too hopeful in that regard, but I guess anything's possible. Maybe they will get around to fixing the game at some point, but that still doesn't excuse releasing it in this state, right? It should have released in a good state or just been delayed until it could be released in that state, so still very inexcusable. Okay, now for our last piece of news for this week. We have, I was kind of debating whether or not to put this in the rapid-fire news section or to put it as a piece of big news, and obviously I eventually went with the big news because I kind of want to talk about this a little bit more thoroughly than some of the other smaller things. And that is these quotes that have come out of the Pokemon Company, specifically how they have been dealing with the anger from fans about very, childish games and, the state of, Pokemon Sword and Shield and that type of thing, the way they've been sort of driving the series over the last couple of generations. So a couple of specific quotes from J.C. Smith, who is a director of consumer marketing at the Pokemon Company. He says, "Fans are clear about what they want, but there's also a vision for what the creators want to provide, and it's a matter of finding that delicate balance throughout the game." Pressed on how the company considers some of the angrier feedback it gets, he said, "We have a group of creators and professionals working at the Pokemon Company that have been through a lot, seen and heard a lot. They have thicker skin than many people do because they've heard it." He also goes on to talk about the fans' desire for a more grown-up version of Pokemon. He says, "As the fan base gets older, there have been requests for more sophisticated Pokemon games and storylines for a more grown-up crowd. We hear it," Smith said, "and I think the creators definitely understand that there's a desire for maybe something, but we try to focus on making the core accessible to everyone." So, here's the thing. I'm one of these people who grew up with Pokemon. I've played every generation of Pokemon from, Red and Blue all the way up until Sword and Shield as they've released. So, I've played a ton of Pokemon over the years, and the way that they're kind of currently, veering towards, the more childish gimmicks and all this stuff with Pokemon Sword and Shield, X and Y, all these, Sun and Moon, all these different gimmicks that they're really throwing into the game. They're really trying to push these gimmicks. It's just not for me, and I would much prefer a more, adult Pokemon game, a more, sophisticated game. Now, I understand where they're coming from when they say they want to, focus on their main audience, but I mean, specifically here, he says he wants to make the core accessible to everyone, and personally, I feel like that's not really the case with the newer Pokemon games. I feel like a lot of them have actually alienated a lot of the more traditional fans of the game. So that statement doesn't really sit well with me personally. I feel like when you say you want to make it accessible to everyone, what you really mean is that you want to make it accessible and, targeted at your main audience, which is kids, right? So I feel like that's really what he wanted to say there, but it's not really how it came across to me personally. So the problem that a lot of people have with this mindset from the Pokemon Company is that, Pokemon is the most successful multimedia franchise ever. It's made billions upon billions of dollars, and yet they still have not really tried in any real way to target a single game towards, the people that sort of brought them to this level, the people that have been following the game from the beginning. And I think, for me personally, it doesn't really have to be like a super adult game. It just has to be something that's, more akin to the older style of doing things, like, Pokemon Red and Pokemon Gold and Silver style of game. And, those games were very popular among kids as well. It doesn't have to be like super childish, gimmicks and all this stuff for the more recent games. You could just do a classic Pokemon style game and still have it appeal to everyone, but, also be, very enticing to someone who followed the game from the beginning. So it just feels very weird the direction they're going, and it feels like they believe that they have to make the games, extremely childish in order to, cater towards a children audience, right? An audience of children. But I don't think that's the case. I feel like, as we've seen with many other Pokemon games in the past, even games that are, somewhat challenging or, more sophisticated in terms of the way that they work, can be appealing to kids. And, that's, evident by just the people that have played the games over the many years that, it's been a franchise. Of course, I would like to see what a more adult version of Pokemon would be like, but I don't think that that's necessarily what fans are specifically asking for. I think, and obviously some people are probably asking for that, but I feel like the majority just want, a more classic Pokemon style of game, So I don't really see why the Pokemon Company believes that everyone wants this, very sophisticated, very adult version of Pokemon. We just want a classic game. At least that's what I feel. Now, as for the angry comments that these developers have to deal with, obviously I cannot endorse that in any sort of way. I think that constructive criticism is perfectly fine, but, getting towards the level of, really getting angry and, bringing up these concerns with, developers and, flaming them and that sort of thing, that's just unacceptable. But I think, just stating your desires and, maybe if you get a little fervent in there, it's not really the end of the world, but, obviously don't get to the level where you're actually making, trouble for the developers, right? As we've seen in the past, making yourself heard in the gaming community is, pretty important to a degree. Many times, just by a group of people saying, we want this, that can actually be a reality just because you said that you wanted it. But getting to a level where you're actually sending death threats to developers, which for some reason has become a major thing that the gaming community does for, whatever reason, whatever unknown reason, we don't want to go anywhere near that. We just want to focus on constructive criticism and making our desires heard in a respectful manner, right? Sounds like I'm speaking to kindergarten kids, but that's what we want to focus on, right? I personally would like to see a more traditional style Pokemon game come out of the Pokemon Company. That's not a remake, but I'm not going to go out of my way to make trouble for the developers, right? I'm just going to say right here that's what I want to see. I want to see a more traditional style Pokemon game. And, that's going to be the end of it. If it happens, that's super cool for me. But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world, right? I still enjoy the modern Pokemon games. I still play them, but it's just not really the preferred style, for me personally. But yeah, I think that's about, where we're going to end it off with our big news for this week. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Ackernews. It seems we ended off around 23 minutes for this episode. It's going to be a little bit longer, but, by and large, not too bad. I wanted to keep it a little bit lighter this episode, but somehow it just didn't really turn out that way. But anyway, if you did enjoy this week's episode, consider giving it a like. It's always greatly appreciated and helps me out a ton. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, consider subscribing as well. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. This week's video on Wednesday is probably going to be about Amiibo, so look forward to that. I know I am. Ack out. Okay, here's how this Mario commercial would go if it was actually, real life. It's Christmas. I'm gonna go by myself and open the presents. Oh, I got a Switch inside some sort of sleeve. Oh, let's pop it in right now. Me and the boys playing some Switch. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at the kids. Oh, I got an 8. Sick. Who's that? It's me. Oh, my God. Ah!